The Battlefield 6 open beta is over, but luckily not for long. So yeah, this video comes with one crying eye and one smiling. And until October 10th, when the game actually releases, it's not that far away anymore. We already got to check out the game for the whole weekend, and that's what this video is about. My first impressions from this beta, what I liked a lot, what I didn't like as much, and what still needs work, etc. Of course, disclaimer right at the start, this is my first impression. Many things will surely still change because it's a beta, but write that down in the comments just to be safe, that it's a beta and that people should wait and not pre-order yet, of course. First to the good stuff. We'll get to the negatives later. There are actually a few. What I think is super good is the game's atmosphere, especially on the Cairo map that really shows how the game can be. There were matches where I have to say, atmosphere-wise, I felt a bit reminded of Battlefield 1 in terms of immersion, how you sink into the game. That's really cool when everything is exploding around you and you're rushing around as infantry or driving a tank through tight alleys. It all looks super sick. You can destroy almost everything. A vending machine explodes, tank crushes a car, a whole building wall comes down, and you're right in the middle of it. And I think that gives really good vibes. It's similar on the Gibraltar map, but Cairo kind of extra cranks it up. Gibraltar is not really my favorite. I thought it was the worst of the three maps, but of course tastes differ. It's still a fun map, I just like the other two better. Write in the comments which map was your favorite in the beta so far. Next week another map is coming, Brooklyn. I already played it at the reveal event in LA, and I'll tell you, it's gonna be wild. You will love it, especially infantry players, because it's an infantry map, just saying. But in terms of density and all the stuff that's on the map that can explode, it's similar to Cairo. So look forward to that. The infantry gameplay in general, the movement and the gunplay already really appeal to me. Movement even a bit more than the gunplay. Here's how I see it. Starting from the weapons. They differ a lot from each other. You can really feel it when you play an SMG versus an assault rifle or a carbine with high damage. Then the accuracy isn't really insane. But I noticed the more attachments you unlock, the more similar they start to feel. Because you can build basically a laser out of any weapon. Unless you play the AK-205. That thing is a laser from the start. Still, the gunplay as such, I find very well done. Could be a little tougher though. A bit, I don't know. It's drifting quite strongly towards a casual shooter and maybe a little more, I don't know, I don't want to say spread necessarily because I'm not a fan of spread, but a bit more recoil, a bit more need to actually control at longer distances or tap fire. Just a higher skill ceiling would be something I'd want after years of being a shooter player with a mouse. You can tell the gunplay is also tuned a bit for controller players. No hate, but that's how it is. What I also liked a lot, and it ties into the first point, is the sound. The sound design is just, I don't know, I think the best I've ever experienced in a shooter. It's so well done, so immersive. My favorite example is simply when a jet flies over your head in the game. It sounds so real, so good, so powerful, all of it. It's just really great. I also actually like, maybe I'm alone on this and the comments will show, that there are two playlists. One with a classic closed weapon system like class locked, and an open one so you can play whatever you want. I think that's the best solution for everyone, unless one of the other gets played way more by percentage and then you ditch the other. And personally, I think that might even be the system for the full release, that everyone play what they want. If you're required to play support but don't want an LMG in that situation, I can understand wanting to pick an SMG instead. Although I do think medic/supports shouldn't have LMGs as a signature weapon. On the other hand, you can still switch to a carbine. That solves the problem again. So I'm a bit torn. But a huge problem, I think, and we'll go into details soon and later, is the assault soldier being able to take two primary weapons combined with the open weapon system. That cause real big issues, I think. You can already see it in the beta. I didn't really play that much assault myself. I find support or engineer more interesting. And actually recon without sniper was pretty helpful. For example, in Breakthrough, if you can place a spawn beacon further back, fly by the point, drop a spawn beacon behind enemy lines, that worked great. So on the weapon system, I'm torn. I think both have that justification, and that's why I like the two playlist system. I would reverse the priority though. The closed or class locked playlist should be the default, called Conquest, and the open one should be its own playlist shown after it. Because people click Conquest. So make the closed weapon system the main system and the open one the extra playlist, if you will. Overall, vibe, gunplay, the rough framework of this game I already find fantastic. It really got me hooked and I couldn't stop playing. Once there are more maps for real variety. One time we had the same map 4 times in a row at some point, which is already problematic and a matchmaking issue similar to 2042. Yeah, server browser please. That would be something. So overall, I look at the game very positively. The negative things I have are rather specific, so don't be put off by the negatives. I know it's a beta, many things can still be improved, but maybe it helps when videos like this come out and opinions spread and many people, for example, comment, I see it the same way, etc. So you should still point out the negative stuff, even if it's a beta. It's just feedback. First, as already mentioned, the weapon sling. The ability of the assault to carry 2 primary weapons. I consider this a huge mistake and it's really annoying to me. The shotgun thing is also bubbling up pretty hot on social media. Shotguns everywhere, especially on the smaller modes. And since you can guess the game won't be as huge map-wise as Battlefield 3 and 4, but rather a bit more trimmed and shrinked, that could be a problem. Also, the shotgun was super strong. The one-shot range is a bit insane. Who knows what attachments you can unlock later to put on it and extend the range even more. In earlier games, you had to sacrifice range to carry a shotgun. Now you have an assault rifle that lasers at 100 meters, and then you can switch to a shotgun when you run into a house. I won't be convinced that's a good idea. Next problem. Because of the open weapon system, we often saw sniper plus shotgun in houses being almost unbeatable. Maybe he has to come out after resupplies after 5 or 10 minutes if you're lucky. However, I don't think that's a good system to keep in the game. Also, the assault apparently now gets the redeploy beacon, so we've just shifted the problem of camping snipers who use it to keep respawning on their camp spot to assault, who now also carry a shotgun. You see where this is leading. Not a good idea, I think. Write your opinion about that in the comments. Then the C4 problem. Absolutely not a good idea that C4 recharges by itself when you use it. You don't have to go to an ammo box or anything to get it back. It can just respawn like that, and after a minute, I think I've watched it. I think it took 15 seconds for one C4 to recharge. Then you have 4 C4s again. That's super bad for tanks, but also for infantry. I liked playing King of the Hill and Domination, but in King of the Hill, this was crazy. If you were on the point, you'd place C4 in all 4 corners as recon, walk away, wait until enemies capture the points, blow the whole point up, probably a minute passed after that, and you could do it again. Definitely something that will be abused. Not good. And 4 C4s is too many. That means you can single-handedly take out a tank. I don't think you should be able to destroy a tank alone unless with a lot of effort. Like in Battlefield 5, you had to throw everything at the tank as an engineer. Your dynamite, tank grenade, all your AT weapons. And if you were lucky, you could manage to take one down, unless it was a Tiger. Then it wouldn't help. But if you can sneak up to a tank alone and C4 it and it's gone, that's not good balance in my opinion. Vehicles in general felt super weak to me for the reasons mentioned. C4 and rocket launchers, you could barely defend yourself. That might improve once you have APS and so on, but still the necessary respect for a tank is quickly lost in the game, I think. The IFV was kind of okay, it was better. Maybe that changes with the Abrahams on larger maps where they work better and you can play them properly. On some maps they are borderline useless. Of course, I'm exaggerating a little bit, but I think tanks should be stronger. At least the Abrahams should be able to take more damage than it currently does. They just felt weak to me. Controls and everything are cool, definitely, and it all looks awesome, especially shooting with the IV on Cairo is a sight to behold. But overall, they felt a bit weak to me. Worse are the aircraft. I actually warmed up a bit to the jet during the beta. You need some time to get used to it. It plays very differently than in earlier Battlefield titles. I'm not saying planes are weak if you play them properly with bombs and rockets and all the stuff you'll unlock, but it's somehow a bit boring gameplay. Even more monotonous than how some people played planes in Battlefield 5 or Battlefield 1, with a loop of flying to the resupply point or waiting till your flares recharged or you rearmed. That loop is already a thing, but here it felt even more monotonous because the MG is not that useful. I could rant about what I don't like about jet gameplay. That would fill a video, and maybe I'll make a dedicated video on that. Long story short, I find the gameplay a bit dull. It's got some fun advantages, like you can free look and aim the AGM at a tank, even if you've already flown past it. But is that an interesting gameplay loop? I don't know. I'd say no. But again, I might make a whole jet video because that's a topic I could go very deep on. Helicopters are a bit better than jet, but also a bit boring. You have to stay at distance most of the time and can't play super aggressive. That has two reasons, and the next negative point is that the Engineer can carry both rocket launchers and Stingers. In the beta, the Engineer had one rocket launcher and could simultaneously carry Stingers. Absolutely terrible. Great for infantry, but awful for anything that flies, because you're permanently being spotted or locked. There were rounds where it was so bad you basically had no chance to do anything. Infantry players might say, yeah, the point is to block them, so you can't act and farm people, but it's one helicopter on the map and 32 opponents. Balance-wise, that doesn't work. It's an Apache, an attack helicopter that has to be dangerous. Sure, you must be able to shoot it down, etc., but it's not balanced well in my opinion. Helicopters annoyed me in 2042, sometimes too. That's not the issue, but it's a combat helicopter. I don't know. Just can't be balanced versus one infantry soldier. Add to that the infantry player has 5 Stingers and 5 RPGs. The next point is, because the helicopter is so slow and a huge target, it felt like in those 2 beta days I got shot down by RPGs more often than in the entire 2042 playtime. It's just too easy. There are too many Stingers and RPGs, it's not well balanced. Overall, it seems they may have overcompensated on vehicles during development. They probably heard infantry mains complaining in 2042 and BF5 that vehicles are too strong, and it seems the pendulum swung the other way, and now infantry is too strong against vehicles. People will get used to the gameplay and certainly get better with planes and vehicles, but I still think they need to tweak a few things. Netcode is the next topic. I don't need to elaborate much. It simply wasn't good. You died behind cover way too often. You really noticed that enemies sometimes didn't react when you were shooting at them. That leads to a discrepancy between time to kill and time to die. With the AK-205, it felt like you have to put a half or a whole magazine in someone before they died. But if you got shot, you were dead in a blink. One frame kills are an issue. But I won't spend too long on that. Netcode simply needs improvement. Something I didn't understand, and this is very specific, if you were hit by a fire grenade or were in that pool of fire, you were super slow. It has a huge stun effect, but to put yourself out, you have to go prone. You can't do that if you're standing in a pool of fire. And you couldn't get out of it because you were too slow. So I find the stun effect from fire a bit extreme. Headshot multiplier is set to 1.3 by default. I find that a very weird decision because the risk of aiming for the head, especially with assault rifles, should be rewarded with more than 30% additional damage compared to hitting the chest. It's just not worth taking the risk on a tiny area to get only 30% more damage. That's back to the skill ceiling thing. Headshots should be worth it. You can use special ammo and then there's 1.7x damage, but I think that should be different. Maybe without the ammo should be at least 1.5 or 6 and then another plus 30% with the right rounds. So I found it odd. Though compared to the standard ammo, there are no downsides to taking the headshot multiplier ammo, so I actually use it fairly often. One small side note, spawns were sometimes not great. It didn't happen that often to me that I spawned poorly, but you could notice that spawns weren't always good. Sometimes spawning right in front of enemies and so on. But just on a side note. I noticed the negative part of this video has become larger than the positive again, so another disclaimer. I think this is a very fantastic start for the game. Over 500,000 people played it on Steam and it outpeaked Call of Duty on all-time peak, which says a lot, even though most Call of Duty players don't play on Steam. Still, it's a measure of how many people were and are interested in Battlefield 6. The hype on the internet around the game is still huge. I see how the videos and shorts get clicked. The whole internet is full of Battlefield 6 and that's justified because it really is a very good game with awesome moments and I think you can definitely build on it for years. Fantastic, really. Now they just have to stick to the skins and not end up with a Nicki Minaj or turtle skin floating around somehow. Then we'd all be happy. Just fix a few things that aren't good yet. The jet video will definitely come because it's burning on my soul. I'm a passionate flyer when it comes to Battlefield. If you don't want to miss that, definitely subscribe and write in the comments what you think of the game. That would really help me. And since this is a new channel, consider that to help me out. That would be lovely. And if you do so, we'll see us in the next video. Bye!